Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for iPad today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
Coming up, iOS 5 is right behind us. They're on our tail.
Wow.
What secrets do they hold?
Plus, a WWDC iPad art event, Find My iPhone gets an update, and picking at Evernote.
All that and never miss another epic show with Songkick on iPad today.
iPad Today is brought to you by Slingbox, which can turn your iPad into a television. With a new iPad app from Slingbox, you can watch your home TV on your iPad anywhere you go. Check it out at slingbox.com. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/iPad today. And be sure to check out their annual plan for savings of up to 20% off. And by GoToMyPC. Attention iPad owners, access your applications and files on your home or office computer from your iPad with GoToMyPC by Citrix. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMyPC.com, promo code iPad. It is iPad Today time. Leo Laporte here, Sarah Lane there. Hello.
Hello, Leo.
How are ya?
I'm very well.
Recording this at a different time. You're getting it at a different day because Sarah was a little under the weather last week, but that's all right. You're still going to get your weekly dose of iPad-ish.
That's right. Leo was kind enough to come in on his day off. You don't work Mondays usually, so thank you for doing that.
This show is not work. I love doing this show.
Me too.
It's one of my favorite topics, and this is a very special episode.
It is a special episode because last week was WWDC.
Exactly a week ago today.
Yeah, it was it seems like longer than a week ago. I don't know why. I guess last week was just a long week.
We got a preview of OS X Lion, we got a preview of iCloud, but more importantly for this audience,
iOS 5, which we all knew was coming. There were definitely rumors of what would be inside iOS 5. A lot of what it ends up will be offered, which is in the fall.
Right.
We don't have an exact release date, but we figure September-ish is what was expected, but no one knew necessarily what notifications were going to look like, and so on and so forth.
So we do.
We do, yeah.
And we're going to give you a preview today of iOS 5, all the goodies, at least as they are right now. And, you know, of course, this may very well change in a few months.
Yeah, anybody who has a developer account who has downloaded iOS 5 knows that it's somewhat buggy. It's not perfect.
Right.
That's why developers get things like this, so that they can report on what works and what doesn't work.
Look how different it looks.
Wow, it's like, is that even an iPad?
Wait a minute. It looks exactly the same, except until I do this. Whoa.
Whoa. So this is the new notification system, which is awesome and sorely needed. Sorely needed.
Unfortunately, whoever's iPad this is, and we found this on the street, so we don't really know.
That's the only way that we feel comfortable showing this off, because it's just a stranger's iPad.
But this person obviously only does two things. Now, if it were a phone, you'd probably have text messages. There is a weather and stock widget. That's one of the things that's interesting. This looks very much like Android. In fact, even this little slider thing, that's exactly what you see on Android. The way you slide it down is the way you see it. You still get pop-up window notifications.
Right.
But then
which you can manage, as you have in the past, if you just want notifications from friends on Instagram, for example, or if you want them turned off completely.
All the rules are still the same.
Yeah.
But what's different here is that you see all of the previous notifications lined up, and you can tap one. And so this was an Instagram notification, and it'll take you right to Instagram, which is, of course, an iPhone app, so it's going to be sideways. It looks like the person whose iPad we found on the street actually only does two things, Instagram and We Rule.
Weird. Yeah, I don't know anybody like that.
That means this is, I shouldn't actually show his or her kingdom. Oh, no, it just says login, so we don't even know.
We don't know. It's just a strange.
Sorry, I keep pushing
just a strange person. It's okay.
Yeah. So that's notifications kind of in a nutshell. They've added, in contrast to Android, everything here is Android-y. It's got the time. It's got what the notification is. It's got the text of the notification there. If it were text messages, you'd see that. There are widgets. So we've seen two so far, a stock prices widget.
And a weather.
And a weather widget. And these auto-update. So, in effect now on the iPhone or iPad, you could pull down a weather forecast.
Right.
Or pull down a stock price update.
The widgets were shown to me on a friend of mine who also has a developer account that were the stock and the weather. And I said, why do I want that in my notifications panel? And he said, well, why wouldn't you? Don't you want to know about this? And I said, well, I don't know. I've got my weather app, and I don't have a problem going to that app if I want to see what the weather is. Obviously, it's customizable.
Right.
I think for a lot of people, if you're going to be looking at notifications regularly, it makes more sense to just throw the weather in there anyway so that you don't have to go out of your way to check
This is one contrast with Android. You know, Android, you can put the weather in a widget on the desktop, but on iPhone, they want to keep that desktop clean. They just want to keep it icon. So this makes sense. They hide it in the notification area. Here are the the settings, and you're going to see these multitasking gestures now are a big part of the of iOS 5 and of everything. But we've seen those before. We now have an iCloud entry. You'll log into your Apple ID, which is free, by the way. You're not going to charge for iCloud. The only thing they'll charge for is that $25 a year music thing. Music Match. Mm-hmm. But, of course, one of the things that we saw that was very interesting was that Twitter is everywhere. Not only built into the operating system and all the Apple apps, but developers have the ability to use the API to include Twitter. Essentially what has happened here is you've got a single sign-in. Mm-hmm. So once you sign in to Twitter, I'll sign into my account. Once you sign into Twitter on the iPad, that sign-in, that OAuth sign-in, is now everywhere, and any application has access to it without making you sign in again. So you've kind of given permission for Twitter to access everything and anybody to access Twitter. There
are also quick, easy links out. For example, anybody who is used to viewing a video within the Videos app, you've got a nice, easy export to YouTube. A lot of that with pictures now can be exported to Twitter.
It's a sheet, they call it. You can install, and this is something Twitter must like. The main Twitter app is right there, front and center, and if you haven't installed it, it'll say install it, just as if it were the App Store.
Yep.
You also, and this is something that you can do on Android. Can you do? I think you can do this on iPhone now, where you can update your contacts from your Twitter contacts. So that means that it's not like the Twitter knows their phone number, but the picture from Twitter will go in there.
Yeah.
And I think that in the contacts list, you'll see their most recent tweet. Is that not the case? We'll have to play with it and see. I'll see that right now.
I don't know. That doesn't sound familiar to me.
All right. Well,
it might have been something that I just missed.
I've just run it. 50 contacts have now been updated. So we'll go to this mystery person's. This mystery person's contact list is now all screwed up with people I know. Let's see, Patrick Norton. Let's see. Yeah, see, so it pulled in.
I don't think Patrick Norton wants you to.
Let's not do that. That was a very bad idea.
Patrick Norton, of all people.
Of all people, to show his phone number. I don't think I did, but let's see somebody who doesn't care if his phone number is shown. Russ Pitts. That's an in joke. We won't go there.
No, yeah. I think everyone cares. Actually, pretty much everybody cares.
Everybody cares.
Yeah, you might be the only one who doesn't.
I actually don't. Oh, look, I think we could, well, I can't show that one.
No.
All right. I'm just going to have to pretend that.
Contact lists get very tricky. I have the same problem on the social hour before the show. I was showing off Rapportive, which is like a plugin, and I had to show an email that I sent to myself to illustrate how it works because I didn't feel comfortable showing anyone else's email.
Well,
so anyway, you get the idea.
You get the idea. You saw Patrick's picture was in there. The phone number did not come from Twitter, obviously, because Patrick hasn't supplied his number to Twitter, but it did come from the contact list. So it appended his picture to the contact list from Twitter. I'd love to see Facebook integration, and some people have said that, in fact, besides the Twitter sheet that is part of the API now, there is an additional sheet shown in the API, additional social networks. So it is very possible, and I think, in fact, likely, that by the time iOS 5 comes out, it won't just be Twitter. There may be other social networks in there. And that's how it is on Android, in fact.
On the homepage as well, not homepage, that's kind of a silly way to say it. On the front screen, we also have a new Newsstand app, which is lower left, just above Reader.
It looks like just like iBookstore.
It looks like iBooks, but this will be where if you're the kind of person who consumes a lot of iPad app periodicals, newspapers, Wired magazines, and the like, they'll all now go into your newsstand.
This makes a lot of sense. Now, it's not turned on yet, so we can't, in fact, go to the store and download things. This kind of goes hand in hand with Apple changing its tune, which we'll talk about in the news section, on how in-app subscriptions are going to work for newspapers and so forth.
Also, be able to update your iPad without plugging it in, which goes very well with Steve Jobs saying we're in a post-PC era. You know, the first time he said that, everyone snarked about, yeah, really? Because when I buy an iPad, the first thing I have to do is plug it into a PC.
Right.
To do anything with it.
How can it be the post-PC era?
Yeah.
Same thing with an iPhone. And now, going forward, starting in September when iOS 5 ships, you will be able to activate directly from the iPad or the iPhone. And that's why iCloud became important, because you needed a way to back up, because that's really a lot of what you did hooking up to a computer is back up your data, right?
Exactly.
So now it'll back up.
And that is sorely needed. And I'm kind of noticing in chat that as we've been talking about some of iOS 5's new features and what we're excited about and how some of it reminds Leo of Android. I don't have a lot of experience with Android, but I mean, I know what you mean, that a lot of the Android folks have gotten fired up about this, as Android people sometimes tend to do when they say, we had this first. And also there's features from Windows Phone 7. They stole from the best. I'm showing you, this is the notifications, or reminders, I should say, feature, which ties in with notifications. I'm gonna set a reminder to notify me. And then we can it's a checkbox, but we can also set in, well, maybe I can't. Maybe I have to do it in the calendar to add a date to it. I'm just learning how to play with this right now. Oh, there we go. So we do, by the way, now know that whoever's iPad this is knows someone named Teresa and pick up dog food. So either they have a dog or they just like dogs. Yeah, sometimes people just like to eat dog food. It's cheap. There's a lot of meat. Here's another notification. This just in. We rule. Nick at Night has placed an order for pure gold. So you see that? That was kind of pretty. It rotated out like that. So that's how they show up. They show up right up here. They're there. They're briefly, and they rotate out. That's when we're in an app. When you're on the desktop, they show up in the kind of the more traditional fashion, just as a little pop-up there. So that's interesting. Yeah, someone had asked earlier, gosh, are we still going to get all those intrusive pop-ups? That's a lot less intrusive. And that way was not bad. And if you don't have time to kind of read that we rule notification, then you expand that drop-down menu whenever you have It comes, it pops up briefly and goes away. That's when you're in an app. And that makes sense because presumably, because you're in an app, you're doing something. They don't want to, they just, hello, hey, just a notice. But then if you're not doing anything, if you're just sitting there on the desktop, it does pop up in the more traditional manner. Again, we should remind everybody, this is just the current developer release of iOS 5 and everything. It's not a done deal. Up for grabs. There are bells and whistles to be added, things to be changed, things to be smoothed out. We also want to mention Safari has gotten a nice update. Not only will it offer tabs, which is something that a lot of people use alternative browser apps for because they love their tabs, and Safari didn't have that before. Right. It's somewhat clunky. I mean, there's a bit of a tab experience, but it's not the traditional tabs. This is just like Safari. In fact, kind of the question is, why didn't you do this before? You know? Good question. Yeah. Salvation Army drop-off San Rafael. There we go. Drop-off locations. So I've got those drop-off locations. Maybe they meant to drop off their iPad at the Salvation Army. Maybe, yeah. That's how we got it. Seems like a common thing. This works nicely. Happens. It's very quick. It's swift. You could see that you have a bookmark bar if you want, but it goes away if you don't, as you know. I mean, there's some nice, I think this is a minor update, but nice. Well, it's also taking a page out of Instapaper's book. And Marco was very nice about it, the guy who wrote Instapaper. He was, yeah, he pretty much said, listen, imitation is flattering. Right. And if Safari offers a way to, what we're talking about is the way to bookmark something that you come across. So I can add a bookmark. Read it later. I can add to reading list, add to home screen meta link. See, there's the tweet. I could tweet it right from Safari, but let's add it to my reading list. What it will do is it'll, in effect, do what Instapaper did, which is save this page in a cleaner fashion that you can then read later. This is probably not an ideal thing. What you really want is an article. Let's go to TechCrunch, and we'll pull up an article. And what it's kind of does a nice job, I think, just as Instapaper does. I'm going to continue to pay for Instapaper because I love Marco, and I want to support what he's doing. And I think he will probably add features that will, make it a little bit. He's actually said, listen, without going into any detail, I'm not I think he said optimistic that people will continue to use my product. So let's try this here.
So I'm going to, and again, this is my first experience with iOS 5, so I may not.
Now, when you add to the reading list,
it's
it's the Instapaper experience. But what you're talking about is you want to use it as reader, which
Oh, you're talking about the reader?
Yeah. Well, they're two different things. So adding to reading list is read later.
Yeah.
And if you want to
simplify it
in its reader mode,
the readability feature. Where do I do that?
I don't know. What if it's that? No.
I bet you if I just go to the reading list. Now, where's my reading list?
I don't know.
Maybe it's here.
Can you double click on the page
Here's my
itself?
reading list. It's bookmarked.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I've added to the reading list. This is the TechCrunch article.
Yes.
Let's see what it looks like if I go. Written by M.G. Siegler. He's a nice fellow.
Oh, he's pretty cool.
He's okay. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if you like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that you could access Reader and just read something stripped out. I wonder what if you were to click and hold the page?
Am I doing something
Not
wrong?
up top. No, I mean on the page itself.
Click and hold this page.
Yeah, just see if you can get a
add to reading list. That's the same thing we did.
All
but
right.
that's actually nice to know that click and hold.
Yeah,
Which,
that you
by
could
the
do
way,
that.
is kind of new in iOS. We didn't have. This is a very Android-y thing to do, to click and hold.
Now, the
not
anonymous person whose iPad we found on the street
I want to see this. Where? How do I see it?
had left a ransom note, along with the iPad saying that sometimes things just were buggy.
Yeah,
so
apparently
this might
that's
be
one
one
of
of those situations where things aren't working as well as they should. But the idea is that Safari's got pretty much 3 new features. The ability to have tabs open within one page, to be able to read an article like the TechCrunch article, strip out all the ads and the formatting, so it's pretty much just reading text and saving for later, especially if offline, if you're underground, if you're commuting, you don't have a connection. So
and there's another new feature for the system overall. There's a new app, new icon on here, Messages, which looks like text messages, but we're on an iPad. What could that possibly be?
Yeah, what could Messages be?
This is iMessage. So I'm going to just send something to Sarah Lang.
Please do.
Let's not show your phone number.
It's fine.
No, it's not. And by the way, exclamation mark here. And I guess that's because it's not a phone. Let's see what it says. It says it's not registered with iMessage. Ah, that's interesting.
Oh, so you have to...
So you have to say, yeah, I want to register. But interesting now, this didn't say email address. This said a phone number.
Right.
So this is a text message, as we would be used to. But I can add a picture to it. I can put text in here. I mean, this is kind of different.
It's also not SMS. So everyone who's familiar with that Messages tab who has an iPhone, Messages as that's how you SMS text. This is bypassing the SMS system altogether, and it works a lot more like group chat apps such as GroupMe or Beluga is one of the group apps that I was using until recently, and it just got really slow, and I kind of had to get out of that. But the idea with iMessage, which is what Apple's calling it, is you're bypassing SMS. And what's cool about it is, like, let's say that I decide to text you, and I am SMS texting you, but I am on iOS and you are on iOS. iMessage will detect that and bounce us out of SMS.
Good.
So that we're using iMessage between the two of us.
So we don't use message units.
Yeah.
Now, the big question, I don't know if it's been resolved, maybe is this going to work with iChat? Will I be able to use it on the desktop, or is it only for mobile? As far as I know, it's only for mobile. I haven't heard anybody say
I haven't either.
that it will work with iChat or FaceTime. I mean, it really ought to, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And people might say, well, why does not either use SMS or not? Well, because if I were to text a BlackBerry user, for example, they're not going to be able to use iMessage. So SMS is still important to have. But Apple is kind of saying, you don't really need to use the SMS protocol, especially...
As long as somebody's using an iOS device.
Exactly. And, of course, the carriers can't be happy about that because they make a lot of money off of texting plans.
You know what? I think they will be. And the reason I think there's no problem is because not everybody uses an iPhone. So if I want to text somebody who doesn't use an iPhone, I'm still going to be sending SMS messages. It's just like BlackBerry's Messenger, BBM, which is very popular with high school kids. In fact, it's one of the reasons BlackBerry still sells so many BlackBerry phones to high schoolers is because they've got BBM. And I think that while admittedly, the carriers want to make as much money as they can, I think first of all they realized, hey, we can't milk this SMS cow forever.
Right.
But also, if you want to send text messages to somebody who's not on iOS, and you don't always know, do you know what every phone that everybody that you know carries? You don't.
every once in a while, I'll be having dinner with somebody, and they'll pull out a phone, and I'll be like, "What's that phone? I don't even know what model that is."
I don't think people necessarily know that the person they're going to send a text to has an iPhone.
No.
By the way, you saw it right now. It's not merely having an iPhone. It has to be an iPhone registered with iMessage.
Right.
So I think that that's how Apple kind of appeased the carriers. Look, it's only going to work with iPhone users and iPad users who have registered with iMessage. It's really for two people who know each other to message each other. And we've always been able to do that with IM, so that's all right.
Yeah, they're definitely, they're not introducing some new protocol that no one's ever heard of.
And Beluga and all these other systems.
It's the same idea. It's just integrated. It's like integrating Twitter.
In fact, I would make the case that it's not as good as Beluga because at least Beluga's cross-platform.
That's true.
This is iOS only right now.
Ever
I
since
hope that
Facebook bought Beluga, they've gotten sort of slow, and they don't seem
well,
to
we
be
have 18 other
too much about
choices.
it.
And what else do you want to use? There's GroupMe, there's WhatsApp.
I know.
There's
so
Text
many.
Plus from Goji.
But I mean, have you noticed how it was South by Southwest this year? All those apps were hot.
Right.
And who talks about any of that stuff anymore? I mean, I don't know who's working at all of these companies, but I wonder what their strategy is in order to get into the spotlight again. Because with iMessage, all of a sudden, what's your incentive? It'll be interesting to see. You know, we got a lot of viewer feedback, especially as it relates to iOS 5. One of the questions, we're not going to get too much into iCloud yet because we can't really show you that much about it. But one of the popular questions were from people who share iTunes accounts, let's say a family,
right,
and they just decide to selectively sync to various devices. Let's say you and your son share the same iTunes account, but your son doesn't necessarily want or shouldn't have access to certain apps where you can manage that from within iTunes right now.
Right.
The question is, when iCloud comes around and it's sort of this all-encompassing, update everything into the cloud and have it, Apple doesn't want to use the word sync too much anymore, but that's essentially what it's doing, sync to all these devices. Is that going to become an issue for people?
Watch what happens. So I'm going to go to the desktop on this because whoever's iPad, well, actually, no, this iPad's doing it with apps. So we'll do it with apps first on the iPad. Then I'll show you on the iTunes Music.
Okay.
So you when you go to, there's a new tab called Purchased on the iTunes application, and you have two choices: all and this is the good one, not on this iPad. These are iPad and iPhone apps that are purchased, that you purchased on this account, and that's the key.
Yes.
That you purchased on this account that are not yet on this iPad. And if I can pull it back up again, I shouldn't have pushed the button because now it's got to reload. But you'll notice that next to each of these apps is a little cloud with a down arrow in it. So what you can now do, you could get them all. I think there's maybe not. Maybe not. I thought there was a download all button. There is on Music. Or you can, one at a time, click these, and over the air will download purchased apps that you never installed on here. So yes, in fact, you do have that kind of access. Now let's go over to the desktop. And if you're using a Mac, and I presume they're doing this on the Windows too, you'll see a new button in the iTunes Store called Purchased. And this is the same thing. These are all the songs that have been purchased on this account.
And this is actually available now. This is an updated 4.3.
Yeah, what I showed you on the iPad isn't. You have to update. But what I'm showing you now is right now on iTunes. And the same button. They have all not in my library. These are apps that are not in my library, which I can download. There's the download all button. So that's not, for some reason, on the iPad, but it is on the desktop. Maybe that's because they don't want you to use up all that bandwidth on the iPad.
Right.
You could choose iPhone and iPad, and you see here it's music, apps, and books. So you can, in fact, if you buy a book that is not here, these are 3 books that I can download right now. In this case, they're all on my system. Same thing with music. In fact, the very first thing I did when the new iTunes came out is I looked at the music that I'd purchased. Again, this is only the stuff you've purchased for now on iTunes. I think when the Music Match service gets going, there might be other stuff as well. But I clicked not in my library on this iTunes, and I downloaded everything. So all the music that I'd ever purchased that wasn't in this library, and there's quite a few songs, I downloaded. So now my libraries are synchronized. You may not want that. You might want more granularity, and you can do that if you want.
So that sounds like, to me,
It's pretty good.
Families, again, as an example, they might have to do things a little bit differently.
Well,
because if your kid is out and about doing whatever...
the point being, it's this. Let's say, and my kid does this all the time. He buys a song by 50 Cent.
Yes.
I don't want 50 Cent on my phone or my iPad. It won't
I don't know why. He's great.
Actually, I do. I like him.
Yeah.
But
yes,
it's
for the
your
purposes
birthday.
of demo.
It's your birthday.
Go
gonna
shouty.
party. Let's go shouty.
Yeah.
It's your birthday. Gonna party. Gonna drink some Bacardi. Anyway, that's terrible.
You sound just like him. It's weird. I was like, if I didn't know you were there, I'd be like, is it
so
Fiddy?
sorry. However,
Yeah.
let's say I didn't want Fiddy on my thing. It's not going to just kind of show up on my thing. I have to push this little cloud button. So I have the option, and I think this is good because here's what we're doing. It's very similar to what people have done ad hoc, which is have a central server where all the music is. Well, if son, before you buy music, check that central server. Same thing. I'm going to say, son, before you buy a song, when you buy that Joni Mitchell song, check to see if I've already purchased it and you don't have to buy it again. I think that's okay.
I think the issue, though, is let's say that there is an app that dad downloads that is just not an appropriate, maybe it's a shoot 'em up game, and it's not appropriate for the kid who's got an iPod Touch. And then if that app shows up on the iPod Touch, is the kid going to say, no, thank you? No, they might be very likely to say, ooh, cool, app that I'm not supposed to have access to. So there might have to be some reworking of...
I'm going to show you this, restrictions. And I believe you can say, I only want to allow apps.
You have to enable restrictions on the top.
Oh, yeah, I haven't turned it on.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And then you have to create a password.
We won't do this right now because
we have shown. But you get the idea. We've shown this before.
So I assume, and I can't see any reason why they wouldn't, that if you have said on this iPad you can't get apps that are adult, he won't be. Even if I bought it, he won't be able to download it. I would assume.
Or you could password protect it, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the password, then you just can't have access.
I would hope that Apple, and if they don't.
Although, isn't that weird to have, if your kid has an iPod Touch and they've got all these apps that they can't use, that they should show up at all? I mean, it's a little...
My suspicion is they won't show up. They'll if he goes in there and it says apps that somebody's bought but are not on my thing, and it shows those apps, and he clicks the download button, it'll say, what's the password at that point, and no other time. I don't think that's onerous. I hope they do that. We don't know how they're going to implement it.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out as we go along. Again, iOS 5... not out yet. Developers have working models to kind of to tweak and see how they can build stuff off of it, and to send reports back to Apple, let Apple know what's working and what isn't. The rest of us can look forward to iOS 5 soon. Notifications are huge. And again, yes, the Android folks, I know there were a couple BlackBerry folks in the chat room saying that
iMessage is a direct ripoff from a BlackBerry.
Absolutely.
The notification is a direct ripoff from Android.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something that somebody said there was a ripoff from Windows Phone 7. I can't remember what it is, but they definitely. But look, this is the computer industry these days. It's hard to come up with something that nobody ever saw, and you may not want to. If notifications on Android works really well, steal it.
Exactly.
I think that's good for us.
Right.
It may make Google mad, but I think that's good for users.
I think people like to poke fun at Apple by saying that they're very rarely first. But then the Apple fanboys and girls sometimes say, yeah, well, who wants to be first? You just want to be best.
Well,
so you let Android come out with a great feature, and then you perfect it for iOS, and then
it happened on the desktop. It's going to happen again. They've told me, by the way, what the Windows Phone 7 feature is, and it's a great feature.
Yeah.
Which is not showing up on this iPad, unfortunately, but it's the quick camera button. So one of the problems, of course, is that you have to get a camera picture on your iPhone, you have to turn it on, and then once you've turned it on, then you have to open it up, then you have to but there's a button, I don't know why it's not here, because this is an iPad too, that's a camera button. You press that, it goes right to the camera application, and get this, Lisa Bettany must be a little upset about this volume button becomes the shutter button.
The shutter, which is coincidentally what Apple pulled Camera Plus from the App Store for.
Again,
because
it
Apple
was a
said,
good idea.
You're not allowed to do that.
I'm okay with that. I think if it's a good idea, then incorporate it. Look, from a point of view of a user, aren't you happy to have that functionality? Let's just check the camera app. I'm just wondering how much of the camera app is different. Yeah, I don't know if they've changed it much. We have a grid. I don't know if they've changed it much for the iPad, maybe more so there's video. It looks all pretty much the same, doesn't it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. The shutter, the
let me try.
The shutter not being part of the virtual experience is awesome. I mean, how many times?
Yes, it worked.
Yay!
Yes, so the shutter button does work.
And with an iPad, there's only one camera.
No, there's a front-facing
Oh, that's
camera.
not true. Yeah, so, there's just neither of the cameras are all that great.
It works on both sides.
That's what I'm thinking.
They're just
of.
crappy cameras.
Yeah, so on an iPhone, when, of course,
crappy.
the better camera, if you were going to take a picture of yourself with the better camera, you're kind of doing
It's very
this.
hard to do.
You know, I'm waiting to hear that shutter.
Right.
And sometimes I'm
no,
like,
I think that's hysterical.
If you have the physical shutter, that's
I would be a
awesome.
little bitter if I were Camera Plus. But I think this is the right way to do it. Apple at least didn't have so much pride that they said, "Oh no, we can't do that." They did it. And
Apple doesn't do things like have pride in order to keep a really great feature away from people.
I think cross-pollination between operating systems is a good thing always for consumers. Now, it might make you mad if you're Windows Phone 7. Hey, they stole our instant camera idea. But as a consumer, you shouldn't get angry. This is good. We want this. We want the trash can on Windows and Mac. It's okay.
We want better features. We want more options.
Yep.
Quick reminder that we record iPad Today live on Thursdays normally at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Today, if you're watching the live stream, you know that we're recording Monday. But if you think, I just can't keep it all straight, what do I do? How do I know when you guys are on and off? You can always go to twit.tv/IPT. That is our show home base. It's where you can watch all of our show archives, and that's also where you can subscribe to our show. And that way, you don't have to worry about schedule changes because the show will just appear wherever you would like it to appear, iTunes or otherwise, when it's ready. And then you can watch it on demand whenever you're ready. So if you're the kind of person who has an inkling to watch our show on Wednesdays at 4 in the morning, well, you go ahead and do that, and we won't judge you because we want you to be able to consume it however you want. We also put all of our episodes up on YouTube as well. So if you're a YouTube fan, you can watch us there. We don't really mind. It's always nice to have you live, but if you can't watch us live, we make it extremely easy for you to watch us later. Again, that's twit.tv/IPT. You can always email us at iPadToday@twit.tv as well and let us know what we're doing right and wrong and
I've been playing
how we
with something.
angered you greatly. And
the chat room, we get instant
we made
feedback.
You smile.
So the chat room says that here's how you get the instant camera button.
Ooh.
So I turn it on and they say double click the home button. Unfortunately, on this particular iPad, it brings up that.
So it's something in settings.
Maybe it's I was looking in the settings and I didn't see it, but so they say that's how you bring it up. It certainly does something to double click it in the lock button, lock mode, but I don't see it in the settings. I was kind of looking. So maybe that, I don't know if that's a phone only thing or what. So it's pretty cool though, and I'm sure that it will be a feature going forward. And then they were saying something about the readability list. Did you guys say it was in the iBookstore or on the newsstand that the readability list shows up? I don't see it in the newsstand. Let's look in the iBookstore. I don't think it's here either.
What do you mean
but that
readability
would be,
list?
Well, those documents that we sent to Read Later.
Yes.
Supposedly show up here, but I don't see that. So maybe that's a feature that we'll get. That would actually makes a lot of sense to put them in the bookstore, wouldn't it? Or
yeah, because it's. I mean, you're.
But I don't see
you're
them
sort
here,
of creating a bookstore of sorts.
Right. So that actually
you would read whenever you want to.
It's in Bookmarks and Safari. Oh. Put the iPad to sleep, then double click home. Oh, come on. It's getting
That's
harder
what you did, didn't
harder
you?
and harder. Let's try it. Okay,
one more.
It's asleep, double click home.
Well, now what's that little down in the little?
That's just the slideshow. We've always had that. where
Oh,
you get
right.
pictures.
You're right.
No, I mean maybe it's a configuration.
I think it's a configuration thing, and we just haven't figured it out. It's that dog's fault.
And
That darn dog.
And then I'm going to try one more thing, although I should know better than listening to the chat room. But they said, well, now Safari's
Well, they do their
crashing.
best.
They said that the readability, I think with the readability or the Read Later was
Well, read.
there. We saw the reading list. We just couldn't get it to load. That's all.
Yes.
There it is. Now it's loading. And I see it loads. According to this, it loads with everything.
But
So
this is different. See, this is
not
your reading
readability.
list. This is no reader. Your readability. You just made that up.
No, there's a
It's called
service
Reader.
called Readability so that they stole that part from. So they stole Instapaper's Read Later, and they stole Reader from Readability.
No. Oh my gosh, I see it.
Where?
See
Where?
the
Where?
reload.
Reload?
Click Reader just to the left of
Oh,
reload.
look at that. Okay.
I was right. I am vindicated.
Wait a minute. I
Now
blew
watch
it.
this.
I blew it.
Oh, you did blow it.
I blew it. Let's go back to the
Let's go back to the TechCrunch article.
TechCrunch article. Press Reader. There
Now
you go.
You've got your beautiful
That's readability.
reader. It's called Reader.
No, I know. I know. There's a wonderful service called Readability that does the same thing. It actually has additional features. You could change the font and so forth, but that's pretty good. It kept the MG's not going to like this. It kept the art. Actually, he might love it.
Actually, he
It kept
doesn't
the
care.
images. It kept the text.
Advertising.
Yeah, TechCrunch may not like it. AOL may not like it.
The AOL advertising team might say, "Screw
Now,
you, Apple."
let's see something. This is a link, right? Learn more. Does it work? Yes, it does.
Sure
the links
does.
are live. So that's good.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's very interesting. So that shows up if I add this. So let me add this to my reading list. Oh, this is so complicated. So
well, you're already in the reading list.
add.
You.
I've added that to the reading list.
You.
Now I close it. I don't see that. So when do I get that thing? When does it say reader?
When you're. Well, I think it depends on.
So it doesn't say it for every page.
Well, that doesn't have ads to strip out. The page you were just looking at. That was like our Twit Wiki.
So it has to be
Something like frames, I guess, that Safari can identify.
right.
And prettify.
Doesn't do it for everything, in other words.
By the way, the anonymous person whose iPad we picked up off of the street sent me a carrier pigeon note just now.
Yes, because he doesn't have his iPad, or she.
He or she. Or it. So it says lock screen photo hasn't been implemented on the iPad yet. So that's why we couldn't find it. It's not quite ready for prime time.
Not ready because it's a crappy camera. We don't care. This portion of iPad Today brought to you by GoToMyPC. I don't have to tell you about what a great thing GoToMyPC is. I hope you've tried it by now, but if you haven't, I've got a 30-day free trial for you so you can get an idea. Here, let me just give you the basic gist of this thing. So you will go to GoToMyPC.com. There's a big green try it free button. I'll show you. And all you have to do is enter the code iPad. We finally got a code people can remember. iPad. GoToMyPC.com. Click the try it free button, enter the code iPad, and you got 30 days free. Now, do that on the computer that you want remote access to. Your office computer, Windows or Mac, doesn't matter. The computer you use at home that you want to access from the road, whatever computer that is. Now, hit the road. Maybe before you go, put GoToMyPC on your iPad. That's free. And you can literally access that computer, Windows or Mac, from your iPad, any computer you can log into 100% securely. It's just so slick. It's just amazing. The iPad app is free. You got to love that. So is the 30-day trial. Just go to GoToMyPC.com, click the Try It Free button, and all I need is name, address, promo code is IPAD.
It has never been easier.
It has never, we can say that with assurance.
Right.
It has never been easier to be a user of GoToMyPC. Recommend it highly. Give it a try. We know you'll love it, especially for iPad users.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you saw the little promo video that Financial Times had thrown up on. Yes, absolutely. Play it.
Okay.
Thrown up on YouTube.
All right. Let's,
might be of interest.
let's get a higher quality.
The FT app
All right.
is moving.
Yes.
Rather than going to the App Store, simply visit app.ft.com from the browser on your iPhone or iPad. With no download, you can start reading the FT and quickly add it to your home screen. The app is quicker. You can now read more content and watch our award-winning video on iPhone as well as iPad. Continual and instant updates and automatic downloads of the latest edition to read when you don't have a signal. All this is part of your subscription package, available now on iPad and iPhone. Simply visit app.ft.com.
Look at that. It does. It works. Now, I should say that they have a paywall, so it's not free. Watch. I'll click this fascinating article. Oh, wait a minute. Wow. It is letting me do this. Maybe this is temporarily not free. It is just like an app. It's HTML5. When there's video, they've done it in HTML5, so you can actually read it in HTML5. They will. FT is not free on the web. The Financial Times is not free on the web. So I can only imagine that this is not going to go on forever. But that's pretty exciting.
You know, they just bypassed the App Store. They
You know who else is gonna
decided,
do that?
hey, we're not going to provide an app, and we don't want Apple to take 30% of in-app purchases if you subscribe to the magazine.
You know who else is redesigning their website and is going to do that?
Who?
Me!
Really?
We!
Yay.
So one of the instructions we gave, we have a great team, ImageX Media in Vancouver, and they're doing a beautiful job. We're going to launch the new Twit site alongside the new Twit Studios.
Perfect.
And there'll be an iPad Today page with comments and social media. You'll be able to, participate. But one of the things I said is, please, let's make a mobile version that works on every device, that the video works as best we can. Now, that's going to require partners to help us out with that, but we think we can do it. So our goal is we love our apps, and we want the apps to continue, but if you should go in a browser, we also want it to work. And so that's our goal, and I think we're going to be able to do that, if not on launch, soon after.
Do you think Apple, I don't know. Apple is obviously having success with relationships with many publishers, but somebody like the Financial Times saying, we're just going to build this beautiful experience and you just use a browser and you get to us and don't worry about any apps. Here's what you do. You go to ft.app.com or whatever.
app.ft.com.
And then you just, you create a bookmark so it acts as if it's an app within iOS, but it's not. It's just a quick link back to
You know what the irony is?
What?
Remember when the iPhone first came out?
That's what you had to do.
That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
So Steve Jobs said, he says, you don't need to make apps. Look, it's beautiful. Just web apps.
Right.
Just do web apps. So I don't think they can at
they
least
can't really
publicly
get
complain.
Mad
No, they can't say anything in public.
They provided this functionality too.
Here's what I think. I don't think Apple minds at all.
No.
I think Apple knows that's going to happen. It's always happened. It's going to a content creator like me is going to want to make sure that the content works in a browser. That's desirable.
Right.
But there's a value add to apps. Plus, you can charge for apps. There's a subscription model now inside apps. Apple did kind of back down on that issue of taking a big chunk of the subscription, so I think that that's going to be fine. So I think in the long run, Apple says, no, please. I mean, if they're smart, they say, please, Twit, go ahead, or Financial Times, make it your website compatible. We'd love it if you do an app, and I think in the long run, there's a good reason to do both. Because we can do more in an app than we could do on a web page.
We've definitely shown off some newspaper/magazine apps where people have said, but why does this need to be an app?
Many of them don't need to.
No,
Many
that's
of them
true.
don't need to.
And in
yet,
fact, it's probably a better experience sometimes not to create this app that works differently than the web experience enough so that it confuses customers.
I do have to say that most iPad users, probably most iPhone users, don't want to launch a browser and then go to a site.
Yeah.
So the New York Times is going to have an app. The New Yorker is going to have an app. That's always going to be the way to do it, I think, in the long run. So both can coexist. Good for you, Financial Times. Although I never thought I'd say that, since they have a very onerous paywall that I do not like.
Well, Financial Times is trying to get back in your good graces by creating beautiful HTML5.
You know who's in my good graces already?
Who?
My good buddy Trey Ratcliffe.
Yeah, Trey Ratcliffe. You got to hand it to him because not only did he make a beautiful iPad app. It's called 100 Cameras in One. And this was actually my app cap some shows back, whenever it was the week that it came out. But he is the first photo app developer, at least that I know of, to create a direct export into Instagram.
Well, stand back, because now that he's done it,
everybody should.
Yeah.
Because right now, depending on what app I use to take a picture, I use a lot of different apps, but Camera Plus is one of my very favorites because they have a really good like a HDR, so that I can make
Lisa's
low light
brilliant.
filters.
She makes
really
all
good.
those filters. That's what she does, and she's so good at that.
It's a beautiful app, but what I do is,
and that's what this program
I save
is.
it within Camera Plus.
Then you exit out.
And then you exit out, and then you save it to your camera roll, and then you open up the picture within Instagram, and then it's a process. It's not seamless at all. So Trey's app is also, it's as nice.
It's very similar.
Gives you actually more options
100 filters.
than Camera Plus because it has some
learning in there, and
filter themes, I guess, that you can choose from, but you also have the little
textures,
sliders to make it your
overlays,
own. So, and it works like a dream. What it does is you take the picture, you export to Instagram, and then it won't actually just post straight to Instagram because, of course, Instagram works as a social network where you want to name your picture and then geolocate if necessary and send to Twitter or whatever from within Instagram. So you don't actually want to bypass it, but it'll dump the picture as is after you've already made it pretty into your Instagram so that all you have to do is then say, okay, I'm ready to send, which it works really well. And
are you using it now to post to Instagram? Is that your...
Yeah, well, it's
your app of choice?
It's my chosen option now because it's just easier. Instagram is... They've got their own filters. Anyone who uses Instagram, you can always tell when it's a picture that was that uses an Instagram filter, or it's something where it's like, that's a unique filter that obviously came from a different app first, because we're all used to our 9 Instagram filters, or however many they offer now. So I think Instagram I love the service. As far as the photo social network experience, I don't think they could do any better if they tried. I think they just hit like 5 million users or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2 million.
Yeah.
That's what
MG's
MG's article was.
Yeah.
5 million.
Yeah.
Remember when we had the 2 founders on the show? They had hit 200,000 and they were going nuts.
Yeah.
They were so proud.
I credit you with introducing me to Instagram.
Well, it's,
and my
somebody
very first post
introduced me as well.
Let me show you real quickly, as long as we're talking about camera apps. Remember we did this Super 8 screening?
Absolutely.
I didn't even talk to you. Did you like that movie?
Yeah, I really did.
I want to see it again. I liked it.
I thought that, and it's gotten, I think, at least in my...
I'm sure it's doing well.
In my stream, it didn't do that well at the box
That's
office
a
over the
surprise.
weekend.
I mean,
it wasn't a flop.
J.J. Abrams and
Wasn't a
Steven
flop,
Spielberg, and they didn't have the number one movie?
But it was not a runaway hit.
Wow.
No. I'm not sure why.
Might have been word of mouth, because it is pretty... It's a little scary.
See, I didn't think it was scary.
Well...
I think that some people would look at the trailer and say, this is a movie for kids.
It's not.
No, but the kids are so good.
The kid actors are great. And they did some great marketing, not only going around the country and asking companies like Twit and Wired to do screenings. We did ours at the Castro Theater in San Francisco. Thank you to all who attended. But also, I think very smart, put out an app. The Super 8 app, and it's actually great.
Is it? Because a lot of movies are trying this out, and sometimes the apps are really silly.
And it's like number 4 on the App Store.
Really?
Apple selected it as the app of the week this week. It lets you do kind of, Super 8 style video on the iPhone. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And it's free. Well, no, not free. 99 cents, but it's based on the movie, which I think is kind of interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's from Paramount Digital Entertainment. So get ready. I expect to see a lot more of this kind of stuff. What a successful marketing campaign that was, I thought.
They really...
Interesting they didn't open big, though. I'm actually... maybe it wasn't such a good campaign.
Well, I think this also could be one of those movies that opens modestly, but then stays. Bridesmaids kind of did the same thing, where it wasn't like... It opened a little bit bigger than expected, but it's still... People are still going in droves. I liked it a lot. I thought it was...
I enjoyed it.
It was very kind of E.T. for a modern generation.
Didn't you expect those...
If I have to
at
put
the
it
end
in that
there,
category.
I don't want to spoil anything, but didn't you expect the kids to get on their bikes and ride into the big moon?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very E.T. in that respect.
It was, yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was really fun. My wife thought it was the worst movie she ever saw.
No.
Yeah, she
ever?
It. Yeah.
Oh, come on. There are worse movies, Jennifer.
No. You know why? Because it was loud.
Yeah, it was loud.
And then the Castro is not a modern movie theater. It probably would have been better with a surround sound and a high-end sound.
Yeah, I mean
system.
it was sort of like being at a rock show. I mean, they got this
big. It was echoey.
Yeah. It's
that she didn't like that. There was probably the longest train crash in history.
That was such a cool scene.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But you know what? She said, and she doesn't like these kinds of movies. She said, "You didn't tell me it was going to be a spook show."
Oh.
She didn't like that kind of movie.
No.
She likes movies where boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, but there's a little bit of a trouble.
Yeah.
They can't quite get together, and at the end they do. That's her movie. She's seen the...
she has a lot of options.
Yes, she does.
If that's the kind of movie that she's into.
Yes, she does.
This sort of is that. There's just some aliens.
Is there a girl in it? I don't even remember. Oh, yeah. Actually, there's a love story. I forgot.
That's kind of I feel like that's the main
point
movie, is the love story. Jennifer, you got to give it another chance.
She didn't see the love story because she fell asleep before then.
Oh, well. Worst movie ever, for what I remember.
She fell asleep after the train crash.
Which is only a third.
I don't know how she could sleep through the noise. It was the noisiest movie.
Well, it was very late. It was a late show.
It was started at midnight.
So I don't really blame her. But yeah, I mean, it was loud too. App Store update that should, it's going to make a few of you happy. Find My iPhone, which went free, I don't know, last year at some point, which is a great feature which you can install both on an iPhone to track an iPad to track an iPhone, or some variety of the two, an iPad to track another iPad, which is the whole idea of that for some reason I leave my iPad somewhere and I just don't remember where it is. I can use my iPhone or another iOS device to locate it. And it's really good about locating it. What people have run into in the past is sometimes you can't locate one of your iOS devices, even if you have Find My iPhone enabled on both devices because it's offline.
Right.
You know,
like this phone? Mm-hmm. Offline.
Right.
You don't know where it is.
You don't know where it is.
But we could find out where it was.
You could find out where it was, or what you can now do is you can set up Find My iPhone to send you an email as soon as the device comes back online
I'm gonna do that.
and is located. So let's say you've got some sort of a thief, a bandit, who turns off the phone, but eventually it gets turned back on for whatever reason. Then you get a notification: hey, phone is in use. Where is phone?
Yeah.
What also happens a lot of times is devices appear offline because they're devices that you're no longer using, and they kind of just start cluttering up your device list in Find My iPhone. You also now have the option to remove an offline device. For example, one of my iPhones that fell into a toilet tragically and was never used again has been showing up in my iPhone list all this time, and it's like, I just want to get rid of it because I know that phone doesn't really exist anymore in my practical life. So
now I could say I actually wiped this iPhone because we can't find it. But let's say I could just, because it's not online, I could just say, please email me. Let me know when you get back online.
Yeah.
Now I'm sorry I wiped it. No, it's no big deal wiping it because you just sync it up again and it's all back.
Yeah, easy stuff. So it's a very good update for Find My iPhone. Good service. Thanks, Apple. So Jeff Stewart, our loyal, our fearless editor of this show and many other shows on the TWiT network, he also tries his hand. He does a lot of great camera work. In fact, he was with us at WonderCon back, 2 months ago or whenever it was that we were at WonderCon when Tom and I walked the floor. He also does some producing and took some video of an iPad-themed art show.
This is so interesting.
Yeah, that was happening.
Look, it looks like she's painting, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, he even got some interviews with some of these folks.
That's great. Well, I'll tell you what, we could play it, or we could send you to YouTube to see it. It's on our TWiT channel.
That's true.
This is really neat, the way people are doing this.
What this actually is in Artrage, which is a
wonderful program.
Very good program. This was an Artrage event.
I didn't know Artrage was. I've used it for the Mac for a long time. I didn't know it was available on iOS now, so that's exciting.
Yeah, they've got a new iPad app actually. Well, it's an updated iPad app, which, by the way, is it's $2.99 right now for a limited time. I think it's normally $6.99. So if you don't have Artrage, get it now. It's only $3.
I'm downloading it right now.
But yeah, so that's the kind of cool thing about WWDC is that not only is there, so we've got, last Monday was the big Jobs keynote, unveiling everything, but the actual conference for developers goes on all week, and they've got all these after-hours events like this Artrage event that they put on to kind of, not only is it to show off all of the artistic outputs of Artrage itself, but just to kind of draw awareness to the fact that there are a lot of artists doing a lot of cool things with iOS.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad they did this.
These kinds of events are a neat sort of after-hours part of a developers conference that you could think of as, it's kind of dry and boring and a bunch of, developers talking about stuff I don't understand. There's all sorts of creative stuff going on, too.
One of the reasons we don't actually cover the show, WWDC, except for the keynote, is we're not allowed in. It's journalists only.
Yeah.
Developers only.
Right.
Journalists are allowed to the keynote, but then after that, they shoo you out. They go, bye, thank you, bye-bye. And because everything they're going to say is NDA. So what we do is we wait until somebody leaves their iPad on the sidewalk or breaks their NDA.
It happens.
And then we can get some of that information. So most of that information does end up coming out. However, I think that we can't really, and I would love to, but we can't really directly cover. We can only indirectly cover it. This is neat. I'm downloading it right now. I've loved Artrage on the desktop for years. By the way, it's Windows and Mac.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I think so, yeah.
I thought it was Mac only.
I may be wrong. Maybe it is.
Well, you might be right. I don't know that I didn't think to look. But thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we will link to the full, it's like a 6-minute little package that Jeff put together of all the cool stuff, people that he talked to, artists.
Let's put it at the end of the show. We'll stick the whole thing.
Do that.
So if you keep watching, you'll see it at the end.
Yeah.
And
we'll bring the sound up, and you'll see what these folks have to say.
Yeah, there's a lot more to see there.
These artists, really cool. Just to be familiar with some of these artists and check out their websites is worth it alone because
it's worth it.
There are just some talented people out there. What can we say?
Artrage is Windows, Mac, and OS 10.
And again,
iPad.
$2.99 on sale right now. I think for another week,
Good
maybe
deal.
not even. So get
Good
on
deal.
that.
Yep.
Get on that.
Good deal.
Artrage for iPad. All right. We should thank Squarespace before we go any further on the
can do
show.
that.
Because how could we do the show without them?
It's funny because I was at food camp and somebody came up to me and he said he has a new startup that lets people create web pages instantly, like for ad hoc, just for one-off purposes.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, like Squarespace? He said, no, I never heard of them. I said, maybe you want to research this startup a little bit before you get going.
Wait, he was like, I've got this great idea for people to create
you could just
websites about anything.
Yeah, you just go to the website and you press a button and then you can make a website right there very easily.
That does sound familiar, doesn't it? Whoops.
Said, hey, dude, just squarespace.com/iPad today. Just try it out. One word, iPad today.
Yeah.
Now, when you get there, first of all, I got to tell you, it's hosting and software. So it's both. It's a content management system. That's a technical term for, not just blogs, although, it's like WordPress or Typepad, but photo galleries. They've got forums you can put on there. Mm-hmm. They've got form building and data collection. They've got all the widgets for social integration you could ever want. And the thing is, look at these widgets. Look how easy they are. Here's a Flickr widget. So you don't have to know JavaScript or CSS or even HTML. You say plunk it there. It's very mousy. Then drag the slider to make it the size, how many pictures, all this stuff, all the different looks, and it's done. They've got Twitter, Flickr, Facebook, all the social media integration. And here's the beauty of it. A couple of clicks of the mouse, you've got a site. In fact, I know people who have actually said, hey, you don't have a website? Let me make one for you real quick. Here's the password. All you have to do is give it the site name, password, and an email address. You go, here's the password. Log in. This is your site. I made it for you. Good for 15 days, absolutely free. If you decide to buy, $12 a month is the base price, although you'll save up to 20% by signing up for a long-term plan. Mm-hmm. Squarespace is just fantastic. Great hosting, great software, always secure. Stand back because here comes version 6 any day now. Sarah uses it for her blog. We use it for our inside.twit.tv blog. Pretty much everybody I know now has kind of finally said, oh, yeah, this is it, the secret behind exceptional websites. Squarespace.com/iPad today. And yes, you can create a website in seconds with the push of a button. Free.
I'm very guilty of not updating my blog regularly because I don't know, I guess I've run out of time or I'm out of practice, but I do update so many social networks that I have widgets on my blog for, so I feel like you can go to my blog and it's still updated with the services that I am updating, so it's not just sitting there like the stagnant thing that I have neglected. Because some of it is still very alive.
Shame on you.
It's
You're
just
blog stagnate.
the long form stuff. I'm just out of practice, really.
Well, who needs to with Twitter now? We all blog at 100 characters at a time.
And as long as you've got that updated on your Squarespace site, then you're still updating.
Your content's going there.
Yeah, you are contributing.
So somebody asked, what's the difference between Squarespace and Hover? Hover's domain name registration. So you would use Hover to create a name like SarahLane.com, and then you tie it to your Squarespace page. Yeah. Because they are the hosting and the software. So that's how they kind of coexist.
That's exactly what I did. It was very easy. They also have really good customer service too. You can run into problems if you try to get a little crazy with CSS, or if you not sure how a certain widget works or how it's supposed to show up on a page. They've always been really good about getting back to me in a very timely fashion with the answers that I need. And then I go, oh, was pretty obvious. Silly me.
Email from Mark Brinkman, Duluth, Georgia.
He says he's been a victim of an iTunes scam.
What?
According to iTunes, Mark was asleep, and Mark downloaded without his knowledge something called Kingdom Conquest. It's a Sega app for the iPhone. Afterward, the remaining balance from gift cards on his iTunes account was drained by in-app payments to this MMO game that he's never heard of. iTunes shows the app on his account. He's never heard of it, though, and then he says, when I check the game listings on iTunes, which is basically people rating the app, it's nothing but complaints of other victims who have had their iTunes accounts drained by this app.
How do they
Most
do that?
never even downloaded it. Apparently, this has been going on for a while. What is going on?
I don't know.
I don't either. This is the first I've ever heard of anyone saying such a thing.
Well, check your I've never seen this, but check your iTunes bill. I hope you do whenever you get those bills. And if you see stuff from Kingdom Conquest, I guess, I don't know. I've not heard about this. Now, one thing I do know is that it's possible for people to, sometimes steal your iTunes password, especially if it's an easy-to-guess password or, if there's security issues. There have been apps in the past. This might be a kind of a leftover from an app in the past. There were a couple of apps in the past that were actually breaking into iTunes accounts. We hear of this from time to time. The chat room's saying it was a phishing attack. So it may be one thing to be very aware of. If you get an email that looks like it's from Apple or iTunes saying log into your account, don't. Because then you're giving them credentials, and those credentials can be used against you as they have been in this case.
Well, what's interesting, though, is that he said that Kingdom Conquest was downloaded on his account. So it's not as if somebody just took his password and drained his...
It's a little suspicious, like maybe your nephew got your...
Yeah, well, it's hard to know, Mark, exactly what happened to you.
And here's the other issue. In order for this to make money for a bad guy, they'd have to have a deal with Sega somehow, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So...
well, it probably isn't actually a Sega game. It's maybe it's a app
fake.
that makes it seem like it is. I don't know. I don't know. This, Mark, that's terrible. I am very sorry.
Yes.
We have not heard of this before, but if anybody out there is like, hey, no, I have had the same thing happen to me or anything similar, let us know, because maybe it's a bigger problem than we realize. We also got a voicemail. People like the show for a variety of reasons, and we're always so glad. Dino has a unique one.
Hey, Dino from Ohio here. Love the show. Every time when you guys demonstrate something and you show your hands over the iPad, it reminds me of a commercial that used to be on years ago for Country Crock Butter, where you never actually saw people, you just saw the butter product and their hands floating over it and making gestures.
I remember that. They're having a conversation back and forth. Yeah.
I actually put a link in, but I don't know if we can play it because it's a commercial.
Why would Country Crock care if we play their commercial? We'll just show a little bit of that commercial so you can see the Country Crock and you can see the hands. I think they're having a conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's like a couple.
Oh, they talk.
Let's play it again. That was very short. It was the short version.
Country fairs are the best.
There they are. See the hands?
Country Crock. Oh, there's more to this.
There was like a whole campaign of these.
Yeah.
The hands talk.
So now, I thought it was you, because whenever you talk to me, you do go like that.
Yeah.
Leo, it's great to talk to you today. Let's talk about margarine.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I'd like a raise.
Have you seen the Family Guy parody of this?
I have not. No, but that seems like something that they would do.
It seems like,
Hey, is that new butter substitute?
It sure is.
Is it true it has half the calories of butter or margarine with all the great taste?
Yep.
Can I have some?
Get your own.
She stabs him.
Oh, Family Guy, you're so crazy.
I love it.
We got
now
another
that
voicemail.
we could get pulled off for, so,
Yes.
just everybody should watch Family Guy on Fox. You'll love it.
You will, unless you don't. But you probably will. Thank you, Dino. We love the Country Crock comparisons. I've never been so proud.
Welcome to Country Crock Today.
We got another voicemail, which was a duh tip of sorts from Brad. He has a duh tip for people with multiple computers and multiple iClounts in one household.
Brad from Arlington, Virginia. I have a tip for you all that I just learned, and I'm amazed I didn't know this before, and it has helped quite a deal. My wife and I both have iPhones, and we have our iTunes on separate computers, and we have linked our iTunes accounts for months, maybe even a year or so that we can share songs.
Right.
Because both computers are authorized for each other.
Exactly.
A friend of ours told us that you can also do it for apps. So if I buy an app, and I love it, I no longer have to tell her to buy it and pay the money twice. She can go into my iTunes through her iTunes when we're both on the same Wi-Fi, and since we're both authorized in the same account, on each other's accounts, she could pull the app and just use it as if she had purchased it.
You knew
so
this.
It helps out for people with multiple computers in the same household. Thanks a lot. Bye.
You knew that you could do that, didn't you?
Well, that's why it's a duh tip, because it's something that people might say, oh,
And
right.
it's legal. I should point out, at first I felt a little guilty doing this, but if you look at the terms of service, you're allowed to do, I think, for 5 devices.
Right.
It's perfectly legal.
Yeah.
So it's
if
okay.
Because I think where people seem to run into the most trouble is when they're sharing a single account, because then you just have to be careful about what you're syncing and do we want the same experience and so on and so forth. If you've got 2 different iTunes accounts and on two different computers in one house, you're good to go.
You bet.
And you can still share stuff with each other.
Actually, it was and that's what we were talking about with the iTunes music and all that. But somebody in the chat room said, there's the converse. What if I don't want to sign up everybody the same account? What if I want my account and they want their account for, I don't want my kid to be buying Mojo on my account.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, then you can't. So there's the plus and there's the con.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want your family or friends to use your account or whatever. Well, if they don't, then they can't share apps. Period.
Right.
It's pretty straightforward.
It's also really helpful to have devices connected to other iTunes accounts. I mean, you can switch back and forth between multiple iTunes accounts on, the family computer.
Right.
I have multiple iTunes accounts that I
actually was
sometimes
one thing,
check in and out of on this computer, and it can get tricky.
But it was one thing I was a little disappointed that they didn't put into iOS 5 is the ability to have multi-users on a single iPad. That's something a lot of families want.
I know they do because they ask us, when is this going to be an option? That hasn't been ironed out yet. I think Apple just says, buy another iPad, and then you won't have the problem.
All right, it's time for movie quiz time.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, what movie is this?
A movie
it's
with...
Cuba Gooding Jr., right? Who's that?
I don't know.
Looks familiar.
Wait. That guy's from Scream.
What movie? It's comedic. I could tell just by the... Anyway, you know how I'm watching this? This is my home TV. This is Slingbox, ladies and gentlemen.
This is nuts.
Yes, I get... Look how good that quality is. Isn't that amazing? I'm watching this over the internet. So here's the deal with Slingbox. You go to Amazon.com, Best Buy, visit Slingbox.com, and get yourself a Slingbox. You'll hook it up to your DVR, your satellite box, your cable box, your Blu-ray player, whatever you've got in the house, and then you hook the other end up to the internet. Now, password protected, you can log in to your home theater system from a PC, from a Mac, from an iPad, from an iPhone, an iPod Touch with Wi-Fi, and suddenly... You're watching your home TV. You've got control of the DVR. You can watch previously recorded episodes. You can set recordings. You can reverse rewind. You can watch whatever's on broadcast television. It's great for watching the game. This is an amazing... Have we figured out the movie yet?
This looks like a TV show more than a movie.
That's Matthew Lillard from Scream.
Yeah.
Roll.
Well, that's more of a Scooby-Doo reference you just made.
It's Shaggy.
From Scream, you know that movie.
He's also the actor who played Shaggy, according to the chat room.
No, they're right. I had forgotten that.
Yeah. I don't know what the movie is. We are not taking requests. I'm just showing you. I'm just demonstrating the ability. And I could change it to high quality if you have enough bandwidth. This is such a great solution. The Slingbox. Go to slingbox.com to find out more and get to Amazon or Best Buy.
You take your living room with you without actually having to pack up your living room entertainment center because that would be silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without the armchair.
Or a better chair. Go find your outside chair.
You might have a better chair. Get your outside. Yeah, go sit, go to the ball game, watch instant replays. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
It is time, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a very, very
I'm so excited. And by the way, if anybody ever wants to give us hats, we will happily take them.
Absolutely. These
Look at
hats.
This. Makes me want to let's go. We should after the show, you and I we're going to slap each other.
We are?
Yeah, you know that game where you go boom.
It's not a game.
It's a game.
That's called domestic violence.
No, you people in these hats, they play this game. They're wearing lederhosen. Yeah. Look at that. This got like
this is beautiful. This is actually from Ben Miller. He's from Innsbruck, Austria.
God, I love these. These are Austrian.
Or at least the hats are.
Yeah.
And they're handmade. And actually, Ben, I feel bad. He showed up last week to watch us do iPad Today.
And we weren't there.
We weren't. Well, he came on Friday, which we don't normally do, but we didn't do it on Thursday either because I was out sick.
This is a work of
us.
art with the silver work and
gorgeous.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to have
yours
this.
Is different than mine. Mine is.
Yeah, we each have. You have a
this
feather.
Sort of beautiful feather here. God, look at my.
Oh, I love these.
Boy.
Well, you just messed it up with the hat. Yeah. You got hat here. Anyway, thank you. It's app cap time, and for this app cap,
this is the best app cap ever.
I have to put my cover on.
I love it.
Are you gonna do? Should I do mine?
I feel like
or you
I need
yours?
to do some sort of a jig. I'll do mine.
You do yours.
Okay, so this app is
because we're way late.
I was trying to remember before the show started. What's the difference between enabled and the word I was looking for was optimized? This is iPad enabled, not iPad optimized, meaning it's just an iPhone app that I blew up. And man, I gotta ask you, developers, why not just add landscape
options? It can't be that
options?
hard.
It can't be because I know apps that do it.
Yeah.
Besides that little gripe, this is an amazing app, and I will show you why. So the whole idea behind Songkick is to keep track of your favorite artists and know when they come to town. You might say, that sounds like something that other apps do. It is, but Songkick is very location-based. So Songkick has located me in Petaluma.
Oh, it knows
wants
we're nearest
to tell me
the Wells Fargo Center.
Who's coming to town based
Does it also know
on-
your artists?
Yeah, so anytime that you want to either add an artist...
Isn't this like? Remember that like thing? Or what was it called for this? It was an add-on for the iTunes store on the desktop.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. But so this is saying, okay, these are all of the people or bands or artists or whatever
that you like.
that are nearby where I am right now.
But you do like Big Head Todd and the Monsters. Come on.
Sure. Yeah. So they're playing at the Uptown Theater in Napa soon. So let's
Hell
say
yeah.
I go, okay. So now if I say I'm going, I am totally there. I'm going to go on
What
Friday the
happens then?
17th. Then that goes into my concert plans.
Your list.
So now I have a plan, or I can look at it as a calendar
Are you going to see Mary Chapin
view.
Carpenter too?
Well, I might. She has a beautiful voice.
Yes, she does.
So then you get your.
So this is
actually
for
on the wrong
people
month.
like you who actually go to concerts, or people like me who just dream.
Well, you know what the thing is that I'm actually not a huge concert goer. I don't take the initiative very often, but
You might now.
I might if I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, they're right down the street.
Yeah.
Or I like that venue. I haven't been there in a
I
while,
love
but
Lucinda Williams. Go see Lucinda Williams.
yeah, she's
a goddess.
she's very good. So you can browse artists. You
Actually,
can browse
you know
by
what?
location.
I just saw she's going to be playing at Wells Fargo. I might actually go because of this
should.
app.
Yeah.
This app is actually worked.
Yeah, this is actually. I mean,
And you know what? I'm going to wear this hat.
You should.
Yeah.
Lucinda will love you.
I'm going to say, Lucinda, you see this hat?
You can also choose to, if you
Slap
don't
me.
necessarily. I'm going to. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to jump across that desk and hit you hard. But you can also, let's say that you just have. So if I go to my my artist tab and I go back to concerts, go back to artists here. You can also just choose to follow certain artists. For example, I've actually seen Dredge in concert, but that's because Kevin Pereira is like this huge fan. So I've actually seen this band before, but they're like super hardcore. But I can just follow them and just be like, listen, I don't care if they're even nearby. I want to know that they're playing in Munich on June 25th for whatever reason because I'm just a big fan of the artist. So Songkick will allow you to follow artists a variety of
So
ways.
you don't have to just be local. You could
Right.
you could
But
say,
I think the magic really is in the way that they will just give you a really good snapshot of all the stuff that is local to you so that you don't have to go out of your way to find out what venue is playing what artist. You can kind of say, hey, all right, cool. There's all sorts of stuff going on near Petaluma. Who knew? This is actually really good for you, especially because I think Petaluma, smaller towns that don't have a bunch of huge venues where artists are coming out of can really benefit from this because people do come by, but not necessarily every Friday night.
we should be on this list.
Absolutely.
This should be one of the performances you can see.
Here's another before we move on to your iPad app, which is amazing. Let's say that you are a big music lover. You don't go to a lot of concerts necessarily or just once in a while, but you have a really robust music library. You can scan your music library, and then Songkick will say, based on the fact that you have 4 50 Cent albums, I will let you know when he comes through town because you're obviously a fan because you have his music.
Right.
So you just go ahead and scan your music
It
library.
should do that. It should do that. That's look, and it even fills it up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's scanning.
It is.
Ooh.
It's scanning. It's very pink, like my eye. So yeah, that Songkick, it is completely free as an app. What in the world is stopping you from downloading this app? It can only help you. Even if you're never interested, you at least know what your options are. And that's my app cap.
Nice job,
Where
app
am I
capper.
lederhosen? Thank you.
Yeah, you need lederhosen. We'll
do.
get that later on.
Okay.
You probably look good in leather shorts.
I don't know.
This is an app that Evernote released, of all things. It's free. It's called Evernote Peek, and it's my app cap. Peek. It's my pick. But it's an app. Oh, for crying out loud. See the little Evernote elephant there? This is it. And so the idea of this is you can use it to create quizzes. I'm going to darken this down a little bit so you can see it better.
Yeah, I know. It's our cameras are very bright today.
Yeah, now you can see it. So this is a deck on how to use it, but I'm going to go back and give us the sushi quiz. Let's see if you know your sushi.
Oh, I know my sushi,
Now,
Leo.
you can create, this is the first app ever to use the smart cover. You can create your own easily in an Evernote notebook just by putting the question in the subject and the answer in the body of the note. And then you'll load it with Evernote Peek. Now watch this. Well, I have to slide it forward a little bit. You peek, and you'll get the question. Yellowtail, what is that?
Hamachi.
Hamachi, let's see. Is she right? Ding, 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 ding. And there's a picture
I win
of it.
$1 million.
And now you got it right, so I'm going to click correct, and we'll go to the next question.
This is fun.
Isn't this
I love
great?
trivia.
A great way.
It's so...
Uni.
Uni is, it's that gross sea urchin.
Sea urchin. Let's see. Yes, she's absolutely right. Ding, 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 ding. We're going to press correct. Very good. You've got 2 out of 2. Let's try one more. So you can put your own arbitrary material in there. I presume in time people will create their Evernote Peeks. Unagi.
It is freshwater eel.
Freshwater eel is absolutely... Wow, you're really good at this.
I eat a lot of sushi.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's try one more because I'm so kind of blown away by how good you are at this.
I'm awesome.
Tuna.
Maguro.
Oh! Woo! So it goes back. We're 4th. Wow. Another correct. You are... Wait a minute. We got to do
I'm
one
amazing.
more. Toro.
Fatty tuna.
Fatty tuna. Fatty tuna belly. I think I'm going to give you that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tobiko.
That is flying fish roe.
That's right. The eggs, baby. That's one of my favorites because they explode in your mouth. Little egg fishlets. So there you go. That's Evernote Peek. It's free. And Evernote is free. And what a great way to use Evernote.
What a great way to use the smart cover.
It's the first app, although I'm sure we'll see more, to use the smart cover.
I mean, imagine if you're...
Isn't that clever?
Yeah. I would have never thought of such a thing. I love it.
So nice.
That's so cool and free.
We want to thank Scott Wilkinson, who has been very patient because Home Theater Geeks is coming up, and I don't know what we're going to do about Tom Merritt and Tech News today. I totally screwed our schedule up today.
Completely. We are super
I don't know
screwed.
what we're going to do, and we'll
Actually, we started Social Hour late also. Everyone was running late for a variety of reasons today.
Normally, we would be. This show would be on Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 Eastern at live.twit.tv. That's 2030 UTC. We'd love you to watch live, but if you miss it, don't worry. You can always download it. Just go to twit.tv/IPT or look on iTunes or the Zune Marketplace or anywhere better podcasts are sold.
Correct.
And it's free, of course, for iPad today. Sarah Lane, Leo Laporte, we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on iPad today.